Hey, what's up everybody, it's Lids, and we're back for some more Gwent, and today we're playing more of our Battle Will Be Legendary seasonal event, which is an alternate game mode in which our starting deck gets replaced by all of the legendary cards from our faction. That means our starting deck doesn't matter much, but let's jump into the deck builder to see some of the combos we're looking to use. So today we'll be playing a Monster's Overwhelming Hunger deck, and in this event, we will have access to every Monster's legendary card. And Monsters has a lot of really strong archetypes. Unfortunately, in many ways, they are distinct from one another, so you kind of need to choose which one you're going to focus on, and then choose your leader ability based on that. I went Overwhelming Hunger because I'm a huge fan of Dagon, but Carapace and Force of Nature are probably a little more consistent, so you can take one of those if you don't have a specific plan in mind. Speaking of those archetypes, let's start with Death Wish because that's the one that I'm focusing on with this leader ability, and there are several Death Wish legendary cards, so that makes it pretty easy to trigger Haunt, and it's pretty effective when you do, giving you extra sources of consumption. That is one of the reasons why, even if you want to focus on Death Wish, you may not necessarily need to use Overwhelming Hunger, though by doing that, you rely very heavily on Haunt. That means Death Wish cards like Dagon, at least once he evolves, can give you a ton of value. Vi is a decent target, although obviously you're not going to be able to replay Vi as many times as you would in a dedicated Vi deck. Detloff Higher Vampire is also a solid choice, or even Plague Maiden, but try to avoid Brewis Ritual because we don't have any bronze cards for that to summon out, although it is at least still a 5-point body. Then if you're really ambitious, you can try to use Weavis Incantation to give yourself extra Death Wish procs, and Arrakis Queen to create extra copies of some of your best cards, which is especially incredible when combined with Weavis. My preferred target would generally be an evolved Dagon, although there are certainly still decent alternatives as well. You could target She Who Knows for the high base power and also the carryover potential, or Bloody Mistress for tons of boost potential. You could even go for Unseen Elder for tons of bleed, especially because you have Devotion. And speaking of bleed, you definitely still have a lot of other bleed cards to build around here with stuff like Crimson Curse, the other Detloff, and Oriana, so this is strong enough that you could focus entirely on that. Then it is possible to go the Thrive route, including the Thrive scenario, although this is a little bit tougher to activate, because although you have Kashe, which is amazing, your only other options will be Kikimor Queen, which is a little bit tough to trigger that Thrive on because you don't have a lot of organic cards and might not have a ton of insectoids in this event, making her ability weaker, or Doldalok into Fuka, and that's probably not a card you're going to want to prioritize. Although you could use Lilith's Omen to summon both of those cards out from your deck because they both have armor, so they won't get completely destroyed by that Rupture, and that does actually make it a little bit easier to trigger their Thrives. Other than that, you have a little bit of Frost synergies with Eredin, Imlerith's Wrath, although this is probably good enough even without the Frost, Ardgeth, and preferably a later round Oberon King after he's evolved once or twice, but I don't really think that's strong enough to prioritize as one of your primary win conditions. And be careful with Tyrannalia because the value of that deployability is based on our deck after all our cards transform, which means the value of the boost will be 0. Then last but not least, Carapace can create additional copy of any of a number of cards, and with all these legendaries in her hand, there are a lot of ways you can use him. The other key cards to avoid will be Hivemind because we don't have a lot of drone spawning potential with this deck, and Yaga because there's almost never going to be a low provision cost card for you to consume with her. So those are the key combos that we're looking to build around in this event. Now let's go see it in action. Alright, so going up against Northern Realms here, and we'll go first. Alright, so we have both Weavis Incantation and Arrakis Queen, which is incredible if we can just get a good target to create a bazillion copies of. And we don't really have that at the moment. Carapace also an interesting card to try to build around here, but I think we get rid of Brewis Ritual, because we don't have any bronze units for that to summon out. Ruhin might be a little interesting with some of our Death Wish synergies here. Although, I mean, we have consumption as well. It's just we need a better target for this stuff. I mean, I guess Plague Maiden? Oh, we do still have Curse Scroll. So, do we have enough Death Wish that we could actually bring out Haunt? Because I would kind of like to do that if possible. Arrakis Queen could make that happen, although with Weavis Incantation, Arrakis Queen, and Cave Troll, boy, do I want to use Dagon. So, I think maybe, why don't we just keep it simple at first with something like Yigurd. Prince Anses, don't like the looks of that. But we could have actually used Imlerith to draw a card and then discard Yigurd and get a huge boost. Instead, we're probably just going to use Tatterwing right now. That's kind of what I was assuming, because we do have consumption with our leader ability, so we don't need to be too concerned about accessibility of that. Now we don't need to worry about taking damage and getting Yigern destroyed. The downside of Yigern this early in the match in round 1 is that that now means that this is definitely something that we'd get back from Witch's Sabbath, and because it won't get any armor without using its deploy ability, it gets completely destroyed. So pretty much rules out Witch's Sabbath in the future. Oh wait, that's an epic, never mind. Okay, they're going sort of a knight's route here. Reynard's not a bad play by any means. We also could have Plague Maiden, consumed that, I suppose. We still have leader ability charges, and we have Curse Scroll, but let's go inward and let's see what we get here. And maybe worst comes to worst, we might just discard Plague Maiden with it, or possibly even Oberon. If we can wait longer with that, that'd be great, because we don't really want to use them in round 1. What do we have here? Oh, does that count for the Death Wish? I actually don't know, to be honest with you. Apparently not. And in fact, he would have been a really good target for Carapace, so get a little experimental, a little unorthodox. Okay, Archgriffin, which they'll at least have a little bit of an opportunity to boost. I was kind of thinking, Curse Scroll, one of two things. Haunt for this round, or Dagon just to save it in her hand for a later round, although She Who Knows is actually pretty tempting here. So we do have Sabbath if we put it in the range row. That does give us a lot of carryover. So you know what? I might actually go that route. And what are we putting back? Because our hand is pretty solid here. Maybe it is Plague Maiden. Or Ruin. Ruin gives us a little more flexibility with all the consumption-y stuff. So they do still have this Onsace, who's not used his order ability, and that is... Ooh. Might want to bail pretty soon here. Because the longer this round goes, the more value Neve is going to give them, and they haven't used Onsace yet. I mean, She Who Knows is a pretty obvious target for it. Technically, we could Cave Troll, which would be pretty effective at slowing them down, and probably protecting She Who Knows and this humongous Tatterwing. Is that worth doing? Or, I mean, it is really convenient to have that to combine with Weavis Incantation and Araka's Queen, but I guess we'll still do... now I'm thinking of Carapace plus Weavis in a later round, which is incredible. I'm getting really greedy, but I'm gonna settle for this. They can probably catch us on this turn, and if they use Onsace to hit She Who Knows... Can that destroy her? No, not quite, I don't think. Not unless they do additional boosting. Vandergriff, they'll get carryover of their own. Though it's not enough for them to catch us yet. Although that Meave will go off now, and that will be enough, actually. So they don't need to play anything here. They will win round 1. Okay, and if we can get Dagon to evolve after winning round 2, then Whispering Hill becomes a tutor that can get him. So that's great. It means we do need a way to win round 2, though, and I'm eyeing Oberon now because he is much stronger at this point. Aridin, not bad, expendable. And Kikimor Queen, we obviously don't have much in the way of organic cards here. Unless we play you the same round, but I don't think we will. So, yeah, we have enough high base power cards that we could potentially still trigger that Frag, but it's not a huge deal. Would have loved that in the previous round. We could probably still make use of it, but the timing is going to be a little tricky. So now I'm not sure if we're gonna... If we play this in round 2, we're gonna feel as though we need to get the value out of it and push aggressively. Mad Kean might be a throwaway, though. They might not be pushing that aggressively now. If we could get enough points in this range row to get Sabbath and get She Who Knows carry over to round 3, that'd be incredible. But I imagine they might want to keep this round short because they don't want us to do that. So what I'm thinking is maybe it's Aridin here. Let's do this. In that row, we should have Dominant, so that's going to deal good damage to Mad Kean. That means they won't really be able to use that order ability. Use an Ildiko, though. Okay. That's probably not a card that you would play if you were going to go for a short round, and now that is past the point where they'd be at maximum cards, so they're committing at least a bit here. But if we go Oberon, that's the most expendable card that we have at this point, I would think. Need to be a little bit careful, though, because if we do want to do all our Weavis stuff, then she's obviously Rurlocked to the range row, and we are going to run out of room in that range row. But let's do this. Let's see what we get. So... and we actually already do have some Frost there, which is not a terrible way to get you powered up. could go melee road just to hit Illico a little bit. Not really sure that's going to make a huge difference, though. When you're going to get destroyed in 2 turns anyway, so the additional turns from this Naglfar's Cruise, I mean, it's still enough to get you boosted, I suppose. And that means we do now have Sabbath. And they're going to use Falibor, which is enough damage to destroy that. That's a pretty solid Falibor there. I mean, we're still in the lead, and we still have more carryover potential than they have. Boost 4, it's possible they might be able to regain resilience on Vandegrift, but still, at this point, relatively unlikely. I mean, Haunt is in some ways the card that we are most willing to play here. It does give us a lot of long-term potential if we're willing to commit the cards that I'm really trying to save for round 3. So, again, it is me being really greedy for round 3, but, I mean, they're also pushing way harder than they really have any right to be pushing at the moment. We could Cave Troll. I would like to save that for Carapace on Weavis so that that's a little bit safer, and might not really have much in the way of alternatives here, unless it is Haunt. But the thing that I'm a little bit concerned about with Haunt is that turn 1, it is not worth that many points. And they are doing the classic thing that every Gwent player is doing now, which is recklessly pushing in round 2 when there's really very little justification for doing so. But, I mean, they are eventually gonna bleed out cards that we'd like to keep. Frustrating as that is, I suppose they have some reason to do it. Okay, I think what we can do is we can at the very least go Haunt and Ruin is at least some additional value out of Haunt, which we technically didn't need for consumption purposes in round 3 because we have our leader ability and we have some consumption from Weavis. Erland, okay. Alright. Well, lovely. And this is why I kind of hate the state of Gwent. But, okay, never mind the fact that we had a perfect hand for round 3. We won't get to round 3 if we don't commit some things that we don't want to commit right now, because that is a very powerful Erland that they just dropped. So, Ruin gives us the next chapter, which gives us Barghest, which is consumption. So I think we might just go crazy on consuming and reconsuming Ruin. Get you. We'll do that. You'll come back out. You'll consume that. We consume you. We're going to lose either Defender or Aridin. I think that's still okay, because it is technically free points. And then we do it again on our next turn with Barghest, and we get rid of Defender, but it does give us a few more points here, which I imagine they were not expecting us to be able to do as efficiently as we just did. Okay, Amphibious Assault. For the Archgriffin that they put a little bit of boosts on, but not a lot. But now it gets really tough, because we might need to Whispering Hillock and just bet on getting something else that we can create additional copies of in round 3. And what would we like for that to be? It should be a Death Wish card. Could be Vi. I think it might have to be. Or Plague Maiden, even. Let's go Vi. A little bit better carryover potential there. Oh, we don't have Dominance, which is actually very frustrating. It's going to use our last lead ability charge because I finished our turn with that. Which really sinks because I don't think we needed that last lead ability charge. Guys. What is this nonsense? This is just tons of fun, having this amazing combo that we don't get to use. It's my favorite part of the state of Gwent right now. So, yeah, we can play a really suboptimal Weavis, we can play a really suboptimal Carapace to get ourselves an additional Weavis, or we could Arrakis Queen and, I guess, go for Vi. We can't use Barghest because we don't have Dominance because of that Erland. We wasted our last leader ability charge because our turn had ended and the game automatically used it, even though I didn't want to. Yeah, so that's, I'm thrilled about this. I'm thrilled about this. Vi puts it back in. I think we still need to go Ruin. It's technically worth more points in the short term, even if it doesn't really consume anything meaningful there. So we're ahead by 1 point. I imagine they're still gonna do something here. Okay, it's Ragnar. There's, what, 2 shields? So he's worth something. Ildiko, boost as well. Okay, and now what we're gonna do is we are gonna have to play Arrakis Queen, and we're gonna use that probably to consume. It might be She Who Knows. So we do have a Weavis Incantation here, which means that we will immediately trigger this Araka's Queen ability. So we'll create an extra copy of whatever we consume. I mean, it could be extra Weavises. That's what we would have liked to have done in round 3. But no, we don't get to do that. Because we don't like to have fun here, apparently. But, alas, we still have card advantage, so our round 3 combo may be disrupted, and our opponent may be the Fun Police, but we do still have card advantage in round 3. Okay, so Weavis, which we'd now like to see some Death Wish cards to go with. Wisp's Tribute. Do we have anything we can even get with that at this point? Lilith's... Oh, no, it's not organic. Yeah, nothing at all. Sierra Brick, because we've already played, which, as we stated previously, with Yigurn in our deck, in our graveyard rather, is a bit of a brick. Detloff, suddenly we have vampire synergies. Hive Mind is atrocious. That is absolutely a brick. Like, is this 0 points? I think this might be 0 points. So there goes our card advantage. I think, in that case, it's them forfeiting, because we still had that card advantage, we still had a 10-point body starting out on the board, so we had enough of an advantage from defending their ill-advised round 2 push. Alright, so going up against Scoia'tael here, and we'll go first. Okay, so we have a few vampire synergies here with Unseen Elder and Crimson Curse. Yigurn does give us a lot of tempo. Whispering Hillock, if we had more synergies with consumption, that'd be great. Yaga, unfortunately, is almost never going to have a target, so we should probably dump you. Bloody Mistress is also very good for tempo. I do like this combo. Don't really have anything with Thrive, do we? I don't think so. We could technically get a, maybe some with Naglfare. Yeah, it's going to be a little tricky. Imlerith does give us a little bit of flexibility, and in fact, Imlerith is a good way to get the boost on Yigurn without having to worry too much about armor getting destroyed. So maybe we'll start with that, and then we might immediately be in range for Sabbath with Bloody Mistress on our next turn. So I think we probably do that. Ooh. Okay, that's an interesting card to have, definitely, but at the moment, it's that. And unless they deal damage to us, we should be right on 25 points on our next turn. Saber-Tooth Tiger would deal damage if we were not about to put something in this row. They do have Guerilla Tactics, though, which could disrupt our Sabbath setup a bit. But we'll leave it here for the time being. So that will give us a couple of Gurnicor's fruits. And it's actually a little bit dangerous deactivating Sabbath when we have Gurnacor on the board, because if they switch it back to Bloody Mistress, and then we reactivate Sabbath, then we'll get another couple of Gurnicor's fruits on the board, and suddenly this is stronger than before. Novigradian Justice is a complete brick, though. So that's definitely not what they wanted to see. And now what I'm wondering is if we go Curse Scroll and we go Serious Sabbath here and get a She Who Knows, and then we are looking very strong at that point. So I think we go for it. Let's get you. As for what we'd like to get rid of, I think it might be Scenario, just because we don't really have any way to activate this right now. We have some cards that we'd like to save for later rounds, but we do have some synergies with just about everything else. Yeah, speaking of resilience, Gabor. Okay, and that I did expect to see. That's how they could have disrupted the Sabbath, although we do still have Sabbath. Unless they move more things around, and that's not really the best card to be doing that to, unless you're going to do that. Okay, that does reduce the effectiveness of Gurnacor. We do still have Sabbath, though. And now what I'm wondering is if we might even consider Aridin might be preferable. I was about to say Unseen Elder for you, but that's maybe a little bit overkill. We'd like to use you early on in a round with Crimson Curse to get the maximum effectiveness here, whereas this might be all it takes. And I think we still probably put you here. But again, by some accounts, we actually want them to deactivate Sabbath and then make it so we can reactivate Sabbath. Oh, that's... Yes, I should have put Aridin over there. Okay, now they'll pass. We will, if they've already passed, will Saber-Tooth Tiger still activate here? Will we get a 6-point She Who Knows or 4-point She Who Knows? Well, we're about to find out. 6 points. Okay, speaking of vampire synergies, we draw into Regis, which at the moment is not that effective, but after some Crimson Curse and Unseen Elder action, that might change. Oberon is now usable, and Lilith's Omen we could use with something like Koshe or Kikimora Queen if we still had the other scenario that we got rid of. That would have been decent targets for that stuff, although that's summoning, not playing, so it wouldn't activate the scenario anyway. This is still a little risky with Regis. It might still be worth dumping you, to be honest. And Vi does give us some Death Wish with Arrakis Queen is maybe not a terrible thing. So, some questions here as to how aggressively, if at all, we would like to push, because we do have potential to regain resilience with She Knows. Again, that damage on her is unfortunate. I should have seen that coming. But if we can still get back up to Sabbath, then she would carry over once again, which is very good, and Kelly might even open up some options for a relatively early pass if we can get the tempo. But unfortunately, you need to be melee row. And then we would like the Crimson Curse melee row, which will put points in the melee row. But maybe we go Unseen Elder here. That should get rid of you pretty quickly. And then maybe they'll play range row is what we prefer, so we can Crimson Curse, get some bleed synergies happening there, and then also get a couple of units here. The Ekimaras get us closer to reaching Sabbath. I mean, still ways to go in that case. Corixis with relics becomes good, but they don't have the leader ability that gives them access to relics. So that's pretty difficult to do, and therefore I'm not really that concerned about it, but I really wanted them to play in the range row, because it is very much Crimson Curse, the card that we'd like to play here, unless we could go Oberon and just row stack in the range row now and see how many points we can get that way. That might be better. We're trying to get up to Sabbath as quickly as possible. We should count as having Devotion, right? We're about to find out. We do. And we aren't exactly on Sabbath, and that's exactly the number of cards we could end with and still be on 10 cards in round 3. So this is a very logical place for us to pass, depending on what they do here. Yarpen will deal damage. That's going to drop us down. And that will also drop us down below Sabbath. Okay, we lose Unseen Elder, which unfortunately means the Blood Moon is also less intriguing, of course, right when they play something in the range row. But this spawning in 2 Ekimaras is 6 points on our side, which does get us back up to the perfect amount for Sabbath if we were to play it in the range row, which is still tempting. It does mean we're continuing to give ourselves a bunch of cards, which means Kelly is less and less likely to work here. The reason why I'm focusing on Kelly is it's really nice to pass early with Kelly, and then your opponent, they might have more cards than you, but it doesn't matter. If they have to play more units, Kelly is still going to prevent them from doing that. So I think we kind of are ruling that out at this point. And this does now mean that we run the risk of us actually going cards down in the next... They did have Denna, so they did have a relic. Okay. So that means they will get the Convergence. Does mean more units, which means maybe Kelly potential, but still unlikely at this point. So now we might need to pass here, because they do still need to play another card, which means we'll be on even cards in round 3. We'll have 6 points of carryover coming from She Who Knows. It's base power, not current power, so it will be her, not this Conqueror. That's a somewhat significant advantage, so I think we can settle for that. Didn't quite go as perfectly as we would have liked, but I think that's still acceptable. Simlos is pretty useless. In fact, I am not sure they caught us here. They did not. Got a little too clever there. They forgot about the Blood Moon. So there's a look at a monsters deck. The new Our Battle Will Be Legendary seasonal event. If you liked the video, then make sure to like and subscribe button and leave a comment down below. Let me know which other cards, archetypes, and factions we should experiment with next. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you next time.